very, very, horrible news.
The NOPD investigates the death of one of its own.
At approximately 8:39 a.m., 3rd District officers responded to a call for a welfare check in the 5100 block of Turo Street.
They discovered a 36-year-old female NOPD officer dead inside of her home with a gunshot wound.
Been on the job as many as 9 years, 9-year veteran of the New Orleans Police Department.
Chief Sean Ferguson says officers are taking it hard.
It's a bad day, and I just ask that you keep our officers and this community and this family in your prayers.
Neighbors in shock.
I probably was the last person she talked to before she died.
Adrian Darby lives next door to the officer and says Tuesday morning she was having car trouble and asked him and his son for help.
And everything was great. And then I couldn't see how this could have happened because she acted like everything was just normal. Everything was normal.
He says he couldn't get her car started, so he left for work. He says the woman went back inside. Soon after, Darby's son heard commotion outside when he says another woman arrived to the home.
She was just screaming like, what happened, what's wrong? Like, she just screaming like, ain't really no words coming out of she just screaming. Everybody could hear around here, everybody. She just screaming.
She had a husband and 2 kids, oh my God. And their kids are still in school, so it's a tragedy for them.
Councilman Eugene Green and Mayor LaToya Cantrell arrived on the scene consoling officers, neighbors, and family members.
I just left the mayor at the mother's residence, and I spoke to the mother and father, informed them of what we were investigating.
We need to recognize that there are sometimes pressures that we as a community need to be sympathetic with and also provide support.
For now, the NOPD is investigating it as an unclassified death. Chief Ferguson points out being a law enforcement officer is tough, and it comes with more stress than the average person encounters.
I alluded to that last week, when I mentioned my retirement. I mean, when we serve our family, it is a lot that this profession comes with this profession. I mean, these officers bring a lot. It's not just the officers. We have our professionals that work with us that feel some of the same stresses because of the pressure of wanting to serve in an honorable way.
She had children, someone who recognizes that this today is going to have a long-term impact on a lot of people.
Chief Ferguson says this is still a very open and active investigation. An autopsy will determine the exact cause of death.
17 people will no longer face lethal injection for the crimes they committed after Governor Brown's decision today. In a statement, she said, in part, justice is not advanced by taking a life, something the Oregon Justice Resource Center agrees with.
Research has shown it's not a deterrent to crime. It's a waste of money and resources. Often these cases will go for decades without any resolution.
On the other hand, House Republican leader Vicky Brees-Iverson expressed her objection in a statement saying, in part, the governor's decisions do not consider the impact the victims and families will suffer, something Joshua Marquis, who was the district attorney in Astoria, sympathizes with.
And I already have calls from victims' families going, what's going on? Does this mean the man who killed our parents is still going to be in prison? And the answer is no, because the governor doesn't have the power to extend a sentence.
He says he doesn't believe this will help victims' families.
My understanding is no effort was made to contact any of the victims. This is dropping out of the sky like a thunderbolt on a sunny day. And then, for example, Randy Guzik, who I put on death row, he committed the murders in 1987. So his sentence, unfortunately, is now subject to parole. I wish it wasn't, but that's the law.
Randy Guzik, one of the people on death row, was convicted of murdering a couple during a burglary. Another notable duo are Bruce and Joshua Turnage, father and son, who bombed a bank and killed 2 law enforcement officers. While they were all on death row, Bobin Singh points out how the state hasn't successfully executed anyone in modern history except 2 people in 96 and 97
were volunteers that gave up their appeals.
So he says the death penalty does not help all victims' families.
The illusion or the myth that's been created that there's actually some sort of end to this, it just doesn't exist. So for victim family members, this is something that ends up dragging on for decades. Today is a good day for Oregonians, and I hope Oregonians feel proud of the fact that we can, slowly move to end this chapter in our state.
El canciller de Argentina remitió una carta a su par de Ecuador, Juan Carlos Holguín, para que le entregue hasta este miércoles el salvoconducto a la exministra María de los Ángeles Duarte y así pueda salir a ese país con asilo diplomático. Esta exigencia generó la reacción inmediata del gobierno ecuatoriano. Este martes el Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores convocó al embajador argentino Gabriel Fuchs para pedirle explicaciones. A través de un comunicado señaló: Ecuador rechaza cualquier intento de poner plazos o condiciones a un tema que requiere un meticuloso análisis jurídico. Sobre el asilo a Duarte, la Cancillería aclaró que el gobierno adoptará una decisión en el marco del derecho internacional, la legislación ecuatoriana y que lo dará a conocer en el momento oportuno. Para el ex canciller Luis Gallegos, el asilo a Duarte, exministra del gobierno de Rafael Correa, sentenciada a 8 años de prisión por el delito de cohecho, no procede.
Es el artículo 3 que dice de la Convención de Asilo Diplomático, que dice: no es lícito conceder asilo a personas que al tiempo de solicitarlo se encuentren inculpadas o procesadas en forma ante tribunales ordinarios competentes o por delitos comunes y estén condenados por tales delitos o por dichos tribunales sin haber cumplido las penas respectivas.
En consecuencia, Ecuador no podría otorgarle el salvoconducto y menos bajo presión.
Yo no creo que es procedente que ponga plazos. En realidad yo creo que la Cancillería ha actuado con mucha mesura con relación a esto para no enturbiar las relaciones con Argentina.
La exministra desde agosto de 2020 se refugió en la residencia del embajador de Argentina en Quito, en calidad de huésped por razones humanitarias. Así evitó la cárcel por el caso Sobornos, en donde también fue sentenciado el expresidente Correa y otros exfuncionarios, algunos en prisión y la mayoría prófugos.
Con el levantamiento de la inmunidad por parte del Congreso al señor Castillo, se habilita automáticamente a la Fiscalía de la Nación a iniciar un proceso penal contra el señor Castillo y a solicitar medidas como podrían ser la prisión preventiva en su contra. Esto, claro, específicamente por el delito de rebelión y conspiración a la rebelión. No así por los otros delitos vinculados a los casos de corrupción de funcionarios, en donde la Fiscalía de la Nación tendría que solicitar un nuevo pedido de levantamiento de inmunidad al Congreso de la República.
Disolver temporalmente el Congreso de la República e instaurar un gobierno de emergencia excepcional.
El expresidente Castillo dejó de ser presidente constitucional en el momento en que pronunció ese discurso dando el golpe de Estado. El artículo 46 de la Constitución establece que nadie debe obediencia a un gobierno usurpador, por lo tanto él se convirtió en presidente de facto en ese momento.
La Fiscalía de la Nación tiene un caso bastante sólido porque no solamente logra acreditar a través de WhatsApps y chats comunicaciones que evidenciarían, por lo menos, esta conspiración para el acto de rebelión, sino también porque el expresidente llegó a realizar un acto de Estado al lanzar este discurso público a la nación, donde en principio se pudieron haber generado efectos, como de hecho ocurrió un caos a nivel nacional, tomando en cuenta pues que la población no sabía si se iba a acatar o no por parte de las Fuerzas Armadas y la Policía Nacional este golpe de Estado.
Ante la grave situación generada por el presidente de la República.
Una vez que el Congreso termine el trámite del antejuicio y por lo tanto la fiscal esté habilitada para acusarlo ante el Poder Judicial, puede ser acusado por el delito de conspiración para rebelión, y eso generaría en el peor de los casos una pena de prisión de 10 años.
El señor Castillo viene alegando que él no habría realizado el delito de rebelión porque no llegó a alzarse en armas y no se llegó a generar un golpe de Estado. Sin embargo, eso no es correcto porque nuestro Código Penal plantea que no solo se sanciona el delito de rebelión cuando se consuma, sino también el intento de este delito y la conspiración hacia este delito. Esto en grado de tentativa o a través de la modalidad de conspiración al delito de rebelión.
La rebelión consiste en alzarse en armas y la conspiración es el acto de ponerse de acuerdo para ese alzamiento. En el caso del señor Castillo no había un alzamiento, pero se sospecha que había una reunión de 2 o más personas, una de ellas él, para acordar realizar ese alzamiento que no se produjo finalmente. Pero sí se produjo el golpe de Estado, porque él como jefe supremo de las Fuerzas Armadas dijo: disuelvo el Congreso, reorganizo el Poder Judicial, reorganizo el Tribunal Constitucional y el Ministerio Público y convoco elecciones para un Congreso con facultades constituyentes. Al hacer eso, él dio un golpe de Estado, pero el levantamiento en armas no se produjo, no se materializó.
En la pista de desfile.
After the Russian army was forced to retreat around Kiev, the carnage came to light. Bucha, Borodyanka, and many other Kiev suburbs littered with bodies. Ukraine especially blames one Russian unit for alleged crimes here, the 64th Separate Guards Motor Rifle Brigade from eastern Siberia. Now, a deserter from that unit is speaking to CNN.
Actually, big lie for me. Like 24 February coming, okay, everyone goes to war.
Nikita Chibrin defected from the Russian military and fled to Europe, where we met him in a secret location. He shows me his military booklet with a stamp signed by the commander of the 64th Motor Rifle Brigade, Colonel Azatbek Omurbekov, known in Ukraine as the Butcher of Bucha. Chibrin says he and his comrades were given shoot-to-kill orders, even though Russia has denied any wrongdoing by its forces around Kiev.
We had a direct command to murder those who divulged our positions. If someone had a phone, we were allowed to shoot him.
Chibrin says the unit was deployed to Belarus shortly before the invasion, allegedly for training. The soldiers had no idea they would soon advance into Ukraine, and he says they weren't prepared for war.
Everyone thought they could be like Rambo. Those who said, I will be shooting Ukrainians easily, piece of cake. When they went to the front line and then they came back, they were like, we don't want no war.
Chibrin says he too came under Ukrainian artillery shelling and showed us this video from near the town Lipivka, west of Kiev. He tells me he refused to fight because he was opposed to the war and that his commanders called him a coward and reassigned him to menial labor tasks in the rear echelon. He says he didn't witness the mass killings the unit is accused of, but did witness plenty of crimes against Ukrainian civilians, including looting.
They weren't trying to hide it. They did this very openly.
Yeah. They like, we want to hide it, so everything what they see. Whoa, I want this looting. I want this. Everything makes the loot, and cars too make the looting.
And even rape.
I saw rapists running around being chased because they were committed rape. The guys who did rape, I saw them run. Then I learned they were rapists. They raped a mother and a daughter. They were never jailed, just fired, just like that. Go!
CNN has reached out to the Russian Defense Ministry for comment, but we haven't received a reply. Russia has consistently denied its forces were responsible for crimes against Ukrainian civilians, and President Vladimir Putin issued a decree praising the 64th Separate Guards Motor Rifle Brigade for, quote, heroism and bold actions. Nikita Chibrin fled Russia while on leave. He gets emotional when talking about his 4-year-old daughter he left behind. He says he wants to testify against his commanders before an international court to shed light on what happened in the war he never wanted to be a part of.
We just arrived at a Ukrainian military forward operating base near the Belarusian border. They're going to show us the fortifications that they put in place to protect against a potential Russian ground invasion.
A few miles away, in neighboring Belarus, an ominous show of force. Russian and Belarusian troops holding joint combat drills, like they did earlier this year, just before the invasion.
Are you concerned about the troop buildup on the Belarusian border?
We have to be concerned because we have not friendly neighbor, but we have 2,500 kilometers not friendly borders. Belarus, Russia, and temporarily occupied territories. We have to be ready here.
Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov tells CNN Ukraine is preparing in case the Russians invade from Belarus again. He says they urgently need more weapons, anti-tank systems, more advanced missile defense. We are not afraid of them, says the captain, Dmitry. We don't expect them to come here, but if they do, we'll be ready. These soldiers are constantly rehearsing, ready at a moment's notice.
Do you think the Russians are going to try to come again?
Let them try, says Igor. Before the war, he repaired sewing machines. Now, he drives this.
How quickly can you get guys to the trenches if you need to?
It'll be very fast, he says. They started building these trenches in early April, reinforcing them ever since, getting ready for the Russians. They overpowered Ukrainian defenses at the start of the war. 6 weeks and thousands of deaths nationwide later, soldiers from this battalion helped force them out.
Was there ever a point where it was overwhelming, where you thought, we can't do this, we can't fight them off?
I never thought like that, says Serhi, because I know there's no way back. We have families at home. We have children.
He says that 2,500 Russian vehicles actually passed right down this road.
Now, we're driving down the same road to a bridge near the border, well within Russian artillery range.
When the Russians invaded more than 9 months ago, they just drove down this road and right over this bridge. But now, the bridge has been rigged with explosives, and these swamplands, which are frozen over, are full of mines.
When the first convoy of an estimated 30,000 Russians came in February, the Ukrainians were unprepared and outnumbered 6-1. Now, like soldiers from a century ago, they hunker down in the trenches, waiting for whatever comes down the road.
Cientos de migrantes provenientes de diversos países de Centro y Sudamérica atravesaron el domingo el río Bravo hacia la ciudad fronteriza de El Paso, Texas, para solicitar asilo en Estados Unidos. Decenas de ellos se entregaron a las autoridades inmigratorias estadounidenses para pedir asilo en ese país. Algunos de estos migrantes denunciaron haber sido secuestrados por hombres vestidos de policías en el estado de Durango, en el noroeste de México. Cuentan que fueron auxiliados por miembros de la Guardia Nacional y llevados al refugio municipal Kiki Romero y al albergue federal Leona Vicario en Ciudad Juárez.
5,000 pesos mexicanos que cobraban ellos cada uno por cabeza, y en nuestra grupo eran 4 personas, entonces nosotros hicimos un pago de $1,200.
Llegamos a San Pedro, nos dan el permiso y ahí para adelante la policía nos viene quitando dinero, amenazando que nos bajan, y así venimos pagando y pagando, y hasta que llegamos allá a Gómez, Palacio, pues ahí ya se nos acabó el viaje y nos secuestraron.
CNN no ha podido corroborar esta versión de los migrantes. Las autoridades de Chihuahua desplegaron un operativo de atención a los migrantes.
Nosotros, como Centro Integrador de Gobierno de México, estamos recibiendo sobre todo a grupos familiares y mujeres que viajan solteras. Aquí dentro del Centro Integrador nosotros ofertamos servicios como educación para todos los niños, niñas y adolescentes, vinculación laboral, todas las personas que están llegando pueden ingresar a un empleo formal, también servicio médico, atención psicológica y por supuesto alojamiento y alimentación.
Pero muchos de estos inmigrantes decidieron abandonar los albergues e intentar cruzar el río Bravo. Del otro lado, las autoridades fronterizas estadounidenses han tardado horas en procesar el ingreso de los que van llegando. Muchos han tenido que dormir a la intemperie soportando las bajas temperaturas.
Salimos nosotros desde las 3 de la tarde que llegamos al albergue, nada más apenas nos dieron algo de comer y empezamos a caminar hasta este momento que estamos llegando acá.
El Departamento de Seguridad Nacional de Estados Unidos estima que llegarán entre 9,000 y 14,000 migrantes diarios desde México una vez que finalice el 21 de diciembre, por orden de un tribunal federal, la política fronteriza conocida como Título 42, instaurada por la administración Trump contra la inmigración ilegal. Las autoridades fronterizas estadounidenses dicen que se están preparando para ese reto.
En Estados Unidos no es fácil convencer a la gente de vacunarse. Menos de la mitad de la población ha recibido la vacuna anual contra la influenza en al menos la última década. Y ese no es el único virus respiratorio que causa problemas en este momento y que deja a algunos hospitales desbordados por la cantidad de pacientes.
Beds and hallways in the emergency department for patients who've been admitted and are waiting for hospital beds.
En el hospital de la Universidad de California en San Diego también pusieron carpas en el estacionamiento con camas adicionales para aquellos que necesiten triaje. En las últimas semanas ha habido un incremento de casos de influenza y otros virus respiratorios.
So these tents are up as a contingency. We hope we won't need them, but we anticipate we will as we face this coming surge.
Los datos de los CDC muestran que millones de dosis menos de la vacuna contra la gripe han sido distribuidas esta temporada en comparación con este punto en años anteriores. Solo el 26% de adultos se habían vacunado contra el virus para finales de octubre, el plazo que los expertos dicen provee la mejor protección durante la temporada. En cuanto a la dosis de refuerzo actualizada de COVID-19, menos de 1 de cada 7 personas elegibles posibles se la han puesto desde que fue autorizada este otoño. Pero no es demasiado tarde para vacunarse.
The influenza vaccine that we have this year really matches the strains of the flu that are causing illness. So I would encourage people to receive your flu vaccine right away if you haven't.
Queremos extenderles una gran invitación a todos nuestros televidentes de Telaruba para que sigan bien conectados con Primera Plana con Alejandra Forero, que transmitimos de lunes a viernes en nuestros 3 diferentes horarios. A las 6:30 nuestra premier, tendremos nuestra repetición a las 7:30 de la mañana y a la 1 de la tarde con las mejores noticias locales, internacionales, todos los sucesos que les dan la vuelta al mundo, noticias de virales, noticias de farándula y muchísimo más. Así que todos los días tenemos una cita aquí en Primera Plana con Alejandra Forero.
Nos mainta turja luna jaranson y javierna de nuevo para su norte mainta. Repetición a tarde y su siguiente día. Riba live streaming. Nos mainta ta entretener, educar y informar. Nos mainta aquí na mes na Telearuba.
The feds keep raising interest rates, and those soaring costs to use credit may be impacting Americans' payment choices this holiday season. A new survey by the National Retail Federation and Prosper Insights and Analytics found that 43% of surveyed shoppers plan to primarily use debit cards to buy gifts.
What it tells me is that by choosing to use the debit card, American households are still flush with cash.
The same survey found that only 38% would use a credit card. And economist Joe Bruselas says he's not surprised about the shift this year.
We did our own estimate using Federal Reserve data. At the middle of the year, there was $1.7 trillion in excess savings sitting in American household savings accounts. By the end of the third quarter, that had only been drawn down to $1.5 trillion.
Experts say this time of year is when people can easily fall into holiday debt. Smart shopping expert Trey Bodge says interest rates are high and it can get out of hand with so many retail credit cards offered.
The fact that people aren't intending to bring a lot of credit card debt into the new year doesn't surprise me.
According to a recent analysis by creditcards.com, the average retail credit card charges a nearly 27% annual percentage rate. If you're ditching your credit card to buy all the gifts on your list, Bodge says be cautious.
My one concern when people are shopping mostly with debit cards is that there's no protection there. If there's fraud with a debit card, you're kind of out of luck.
The song says there's no place like home for the holidays, but that might not be true for everyone.
We are forecasting 113 million people are going to be traveling for this upcoming holiday period. About 101 million will go by car.
AAA is forecasting the third busiest year for holiday travel since the agency began tracking in 2000, topped only by 2018 and 2019. But spokesperson Andrew Gross says people are beginning to return to pre-pandemic level travel, which means crowds at the airports and traffic on the roads. Routes in major metro areas are expected to be especially congested both Fridays, leading into the Christmas and New Year's holiday weekends.
If you're driving, you have more flexibility because you can decide what time you're going to go,
And while soaring inflation means you may be paying more for holiday gifts, drivers are catching a break at the pump.
We expect that gasoline prices could be hovering right around the $3 a gallon level, way below even what we saw last year.
Gross notes the global price of oil, along with the less expensive winter blend of gas, is behind the steady decline in prices. But to get the most mileage out of that tank of gas and stay safe on the roads, AAA recommends having your vehicle serviced before your trip and plan for anything Mother Nature may have in store.
Make sure your fluids are topped, your tires are properly inflated. And also, if there's a big storm coming in and you're driving, you can, choose a different route.
In Los Angeles, I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
It was an early Christmas present for Mariah Carey fans. She had to vamp and improvise. To save herself from her latest wardrobe malfunction, blame it on one of the chain straps on this $800 dress.
It came untethered, I should say.
Her stylist came to the rescue at a surprise performance at Lincoln Center as Mariah made up lyrics.
So good. So I just had to make up a little song about we making dresses, da 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 da. It was just a freestyle moment. It is what it was.
Seems Mariah is often coming untethered, usually when outfits are so tight she can barely move. There was the time the back of her Versace dress popped in Central Park.
This pop, is it gonna fall? Listen, I'll just hold them up the whole time. That's what are you gonna do?
But even weirder than Mariah's wardrobe malfunctions was Rudy Giuliani's, or as he's now known, Rudy Two Watches Giuliani. He ended up the target of Stephen Colbert after getting caught on a hot camera, surprised at what was on his own wrist.
You know I have 2 watches on.
How do you accidentally put on 2 watches? Colbert joked maybe it was about finding a time when it's not too early for a Cabernet.
That way it's twice as likely to be 5 o'clock somewhere.
Who knew having too much time on your hands could turn into a wardrobe malfunction? Please, no more watches for Rudy this holiday.
Making the sequel to James Cameron's Avatar started where most films do.
It all starts with the script that Jim wrote with universal themes. His family is at the center of our story, but what Jim does is he takes these universal themes and sets them against extraordinary backdrops. The oceans of Pandora, there's nothing more extraordinary than that.
Bringing the world of Avatar: The Way of Water to life evolved from the original film.
We couldn't just come out with the same tech, we couldn't come out with the same performance or characters. So this one we really had to push the boundaries of what we felt we could even do.
The way of water connects all things.
We started over. We wiped out everything we did on the first film. We said everything's going to be done different, everything's going to be done in a more physically correct way. We wanted the water to be correct. We wanted the performances to be so much more than they were.
Those performances include a new generation of actors.
After seeing the movie especially, because I didn't get the chance, I was so young when it came out that I didn't see it in theaters, but now seeing Avatar: The Way of Water in theaters, I'm realizing, wow, what a world builder. No one has built a world the way Jim has built Pandora.
I see you.